Darth Vapor.
Darth Vapor could be Carl.
Could be Carl.
There you go.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is, I believe he lived with them guys. That's how good he is. He didn't look that interesting to us.
Well, I did, but I don't. I have to be honest. There's no point. I don't know enough about the kid to be able to give you an honest opinion. Welcome to Talk Boxing, the Q&A with Simon Jordan and Spencer Oliver. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel, and of course, equally importantly, leaving the questions in the comment section below so we've got something to bloody ask and answer. First question, Spence, is...
What's the name? What's the name?
No, let's have a look down here. No, we're all right, Spence.
Really?
We're all right. We've got no Darth Vapors and things like that.
Oh,
so we're all set. Where's he gone? I've missed him.
What about Homie? Is he in there? Homie,
he's probably thinking about Darth Vapor and thinking about Carl's nose, because Carl could vape in a room on his own, couldn't he?
Hey, listen. Perhaps it is Carl.
Darth Vapor.
Darth Vapor could be Carl.
Could be Carl.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go.
He
Seems funny that the Cobra's gone away and he's away until the end of August and no Darth Vapor anyway.
Very true.
Let's move on.
Right, let's get into the question. Michael Ashworth is first up. In a fantasy fight, if both fighters fought at the same weight, who would win between a prime Canelo and a prime Crawford?
Very difficult question because obviously they operate at different weights and Canelo is a lot bigger than Crawford. But in a fantasy fight, if they were both boxing at welterweight where Canelo started out at, but Canelo was only a baby when he boxed there, you know, like if you fast forward and put his best days at welterweight when he's there, I'm going to go Crawford. I think Crawford's technically the better of the two, and I think he would just work a way out to win because you go with the work rate, the persistence and the work rate of Canelo, the younger Canelo, where he throws single shots now. When he was younger, he'd work a lot more, and there was phenomenal pressure about what he'd done. But it was like, it's not one-dimensional, but you just sort of knew where it was coming from. You knew what it was.
Would you have said that before Crawford dismantled Bill Spence?
Definitely not.
Because I think we both picked Crawford to beat Spence, didn't we?
Yeah, we did.
Not as
convincingly
where you took him to school.
It showed me that he is a modern-day great, and he will go down as one of the all-time greats. Because I think he actually moves up to 154 and beats Shamel Charlo as well. I really do, and I think
because no one saw this. I mean, we all saw. I think actually when he first fought Ricky Burns, when he first sort of exploded on the psyche.
That's when we first.
I think people were thinking Ricky Burns was going to win that fight, and ultimately we're thinking, who the hell's Terence Crawford?
Even when Crawford won that fight, I'm thinking, he's not a bad fighter, good fighter, but I think that he's just developed over the years. And I think now, when you look at it, I just go, if they were both at welterweight, which Canelo's best days weren't at welterweight anyway, but if they're both at welterweight, I would go
Crawford as well.
Yeah,
Did you watch, when you watched the last press conference and the debate, when you had Derek James and you had Bomac debating either side, you had Errol Spence talking about catching big fish and Crawford getting slightly agitated. I watched it. I was in hospital at the time watching it, and I was like, I don't know about Spence. He don't look like he's ready for this fight. And I was looking at it thinking, I already felt Crawford was going to win. And sometimes you can't judge much from the psyche of fighters or the presentation of fighters, but it looked to me that Crawford was the stronger.
I'm with you.
Mentally
at the press conference,
and Spence looked like he was uncomfortable.
He was not comfortable in his surroundings. I'm totally with you on that. Like Spence, for me, since he had that bad car crash, I don't think he's been the same fighter really since then.
Well, he's beaten some fights.
I know he's beaten. Yeah, but what I'm saying is he was phenomenal for me when he was. Not I'm saying that he's not phenomenal now, but what I'm saying is I don't think he's put in the performances since then that we saw before then. This is what I'm saying. He's still a great fighter, but I just think that I'm with you on that one, Simon. There was something there, and I saw his eyes were a little bit. You look at a fighter when they're there and they're in fight mode, boom, tunnel vision, and he was a little bit twitching, a little bit uncomfortable in his surroundings. I read all that. I got all the body language from that. I'm a big one on the psychological side of stuff, and I think this kid, I'm not sure if he fancies this. He was more like, thanks for the opportunity.
Because it was a proper number. I mean, you would have discussed this already, but it was a proper number that Crawford did on.
One-sided beatdown. One-sided beatdown. I mean, that's why I just go now. Crawford, I go, he's one of the best fighters I've seen. I'm going to put him in. I'll even say Crawford would have lived in the era and possibly even beat them. Probably would have when you talk about Leonard Hearns, Hagler, Duran. You know, when Hagler, 1981, I think it was, when Leonard boxed Hearns, the first one. They were exceptional. What I'm saying is, I think he would have lived in that era. Whether he would have beat them or not is another matter. But I think that he's that good. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? I'm not saying he would have beat a prime welterweight Hagler or Leonard or Hearns. Yeah. Hagler's always a middleweight, but or Duran. But what I'm saying is, I believe he lived with them guys. That's how good he is, and we're talking about legends there. Yeah.
Nick Wells asks, who is your number one pound-for-pound fighter of all time?
Yeah, it's a tough one, that. That's a tough one. I mean, like, obviously, the guy that inspired me was Marvin Hagler, and I think he was world middleweight champion for 8 years, and he beat the who's who at that time. That was an era for me where you had unbelievable fighters. So as a pound-for-pound star back then, I've got to put Marvin Hagler right up there because he took on all comers, and even the way he went out, there was a debate on whether he won or lost against Sugar Ray Leonard. I felt that he just nicked the fight. A lot of people felt otherwise. It was one of those ones, but he went out, and he went out in style. You never saw him again. He went, right, that's it. He obviously felt the cracks were appearing and disappeared. So Hagler would be right up there for me as a pound-for-pound star. And I think in the modern era now with Terence Crawford and the way that he dealt with Errol Spence and with what he's going to achieve after, he's going to be up there as well, because you can't be a freeweight world champion going from lightweight, super lightweight, and welterweight, undisputed super lightweight, undisputed welterweight, and possibly even become undisputed super welterweight. So I think his name's right up there as well for his achievements and what he's done. You know, so yeah, I'd go there really.
There's likability. I mean, it's undeniable that you'd have to put Floyd Mayweather in a conversation.
Yeah, of course.
The likability factor doesn't play into me. So I would look into, if I was choosing a pound for pound, I would look at something like Sugar Ray Robinson.
Robinson was the greatest fighter that ever lived. That is a fact. That is a fact.
So for me, that puts him in the category. And then I would look at Ali because of the nature of what he brought to boxing, what he was before he didn't take the draft, what he was when he came back after the suspension, and what he did when he beat, you know, George Foreman, and the fights that he had with Kenny Norton and with Joe Frazier were just the stuff of legends. Yeah. So from the iconography,
I like that
of Ali, I would say he was pound for pound because he just transcended boxing.
Absolutely.
For the pure fightability of it all, I would say Sugar Ray Robinson.
Sugar Ray Robinson was the best fighter that's ever lived.
And I would put Floyd Mayweather in a category, but he would lose it for me because of likability, because I get tired of all this bullshit about money, Mayweather and all that sort of stuff. You know, I think the fights that he had, the people that he fought, you know, the fact that, you know, Ricky went in with him, that Manny Pacquiao went in with him all a bit late in the day. But he had big fights.
I bet there's another man that you can argue with there as well, Manny Pacquiao. You know, he becomes an eight-weight world champion. I mean, you know, how can you go through the weight divisions the way that he did? You know, it's another.
Good job, Carl, wasn't it? Because he'd be denoting himself, wouldn't he?
Cole?
Yeah.
Cole who?
Carl Froch.
Oh, sorry, yeah.
Paddle tennis expert. He'd be denoting himself as in that category. Is he a Hall of Famer now?
He's a Hall of Famer. He's got the ring. He's got the ring.
Got the ring.
I got him to bring the ring in. Yeah, he's a Hall of Famer. Yeah. I mean, you got to remember those fights like Jermaine Taylor when he won with, like, what was it, 18 seconds to go?
Yeah. And
the Cobra,
Kessler fights.
Yeah, on a serious note, right, when you look back
Usyk and Bute, when he walked across the ring and rendered him unconscious, he'd love to tell you that story.
But when he was
rendered him unconscious.
The Cobra he's a tough man to beat, you know, because he was like, even when he was hurt, he was going like he was a good guy.
I loved him. I loved him as a fighter.
He knows where he would rank in our super middleweight best boxers ever.
Well, here's a question. We're going to get to that in a second. Well, here's a decent name for the old parody front. King Size Homer has asked us another question. Which fighter in any weight division currently fighting would succeed in any era?
Well, we've just answered that question, really, haven't we, with Terence Crawford? I'm saying I think he goes back to go back to the 80s. Tyson Fury, definitely. Alexander Usyk. And the reason being because the heavyweights were smaller back then as well, and I think that Alexander Usyk would deal with the heavyweights back then better than the heavyweights of today because they're so big now. Yeah.
Although you can tell that to Riddick Bowe.
Yeah. Riddick Bowe's a great fighter. Yeah. That's a great fighter.
But
what I'm saying is, I'm not saying that they would have.
Tank Davis.
Yeah. I'm not saying they would have beat them, but what I'm saying is I think they could fit in that era. But, you know, when you look back at those fighters, that, you know, I think the 80s was a massive time, wasn't it? 70s and 80s was huge because politics never really got in the way. You had the best fighting the best. And that's what creates legacies. That's what we need right now.
Okay, here's the question that's sort of been set up by the reference towards Carl. It's from Jack West.
Come on, Jack. What we got?
Not Adam West's brother, do you think? You know who Adam West was?
Adam West?
Yeah. Batman.
No.
Didn't know that?
Fred West.
Well, Fred West is not a great conversation, is it? Rose West. Let's talk about Fred West.
It's the first West that come into my head, do you know what I mean? Yeah.
Adam West was Batman, the original Batman.
Well, do you reckon that's him?
No, we can't because his name's Jack. He could be related, couldn't he?
Oh, you think so?
Just saying. I don't suppose he's going to put his hand up and say I'm related to Fred, is he? You know, me and Fred. I'm a chip off the old block. Who would win? Who would win between prime Nigel Benn and prime Carl?
Wow. Tough one, that. Tough one, that. Right, so here it goes. This is how I see it. Cole Froch, if he could weather those moments, right, would win that fight down the stretch, and he would stop. He would stop. And the likelihood is he weathered a lot of moments, Cole. We know that you had to nail him to the canvas to keep him there. If he could weather those moments, Cole would stop Nigel late on in rounds 9, 10, 11, or 12. Right, that's where I see it. Like a bit like the first Eubank fight. It'd be an absolute war. But there is a very good possibility that Ben could do something like what he done with Iran Barkley when he just went out there and obliterated him. Because what Nigel Benn was great at is if he caught an opponent, he was a great finisher.
At no time during Carl's career has anyone obliterated him.
No, exactly, and that's my argument. So
he's not going to take his heart like he took Gerald McLennan's
I'm going to go Cobra late stoppage.
Yeah.
Yeah. But the only reason I said that is because I'm making a case for obviously for Nigel because he's a legend in his own right.
The only reason you're saying it is because you might have Carl back on this in this studio.
So I'm going to say Cobra. I'm going with you, mate. I've got you.
I'm inclined. I mean, listen, I was a huge fan of Nigel Benn's, and went to the McLennan fight and watched that fight and watched him get knocked through the ropes in the first round and watch him bit by bit. Obviously, we know the tragedy at the end, and no one wants to acknowledge that at the very end of the fight was a challenge specifically for Gerald McLennan. But I watched Nigel Benn systematically take his heart until eventually he made him quit. I don't think he could do that to Carl.
No, I agree.
And I think Carl can take heaps of punishment.
Yeah.
And I don't think anyone's been hit as regularly and as hard as he was hit in that fight with George Groves.
Yeah, I
as
agree.
Carl, and obviously in the Kessler fights that he's had. So I would probably be Carl.
You're already saying that though, because that relationship,
no, I'm not.
That conversation you had with him in the car park, wherever it was.
No, I'm not.
When you were both telling each other how great you both was.
I'm not. I've done a podcast with him since.
Oh, all right. Yeah. Right, that was nice. We were shaking hands, cuddles at the end.
No, we got to talk about Carl for 2 hours, which was his favourite subject, so it was great.
Yeah, but now I understand where you're coming from. I just
think that Carl would just have the ability to be able to overcome everything that Nigel threw at him and find his way through it.
Interesting.
Okay, finally, the last question, which is Butterfly Boxing asks, can you name 2 upcoming fighters you predict to become a world champion in any weight class?
Yeah.
I'm going to go first.
Go on.
I've got 2, but I'm going to pick one because I might leave the other one for you because you might have got it already. I'm going to go. I don't want him hopping across the ring because I think he's going to get found out if he keeps on doing that. But I think Ben Whittaker will win a world title. I think he'll be world class. I think ultimately he won't be up against a ring against Lyndon Arthur or against Josh Boazzi or against Craig Richards. But I see everything. Despite the fact he didn't bloody turn up, I see everything in him that tells me that he's going to be a world champion from the way he presents himself to the confidence to the ability that he's got.
Agree. I totally agree with that. I'm with you on that one.
Okay.
I think it's only a matter of time, and I'll go with Adam Azim.
That's what I was going to pick. That's
but I'm going to throw one out there as well. I'm going to throw a little curveball out of there. A guy that I've got as well, because I think them 2 are guaranteed. That it's not a matter of if, when. I'm going to throw one out there and I'm going to say Moses Ntamu as well. I think that kid will develop into a world heavyweight champion.
I haven't watched enough of him to give you an honest opinion on him, but I haven't watched enough of him.
Yeah, but I just know his history, his backstory, who he spars, how he gets on in the sparring, the amateur pedigree that he comes from, and what I've seen in the pro ranks. That you just look at him and think, he's going to develop. What's he, 18, 19 years of age? He's a young kid, isn't he? A young kid, and I just think, given time, he's going to be a world champion.
Interesting. Right, Spence, that's the end of...
You didn't look that interested.
Well, I did, but I have to be honest, there's no point I don't know enough about the kid to be able to give you an honest opinion. I can sit here and I can blow smoke up your arse and say, yes, and everyone go, you don't know what the hell he's talking about. So I might as well just cut to the chase and say, I don't know what I'm talking about on that front.
Love the honesty.
Best way to
Love
be,
the honesty.
Best
Great to have you back, by the way.
Nice to see you. I appreciated the kind messages. That's it for the end of Talk Boxing, the Q&A. Don't forget to keep liking and subscribing. As importantly, keep leaving the questions in the comment section below so we can make a holics of them. Answer them coherently. And we'll look forward to seeing you the next time we're out.